My name's Chris Ward, and for the next 15 minutes, I'm going to be taking you on my journey and then some recommendations which you can apply to your own company and also to other companies by saving you time, money, and resources. So imagine most of you have got websites. You can be fined $20 million for privacy breach of customer information. And I should imagine that all of you have customer information. Most of you have got websites. Did you know you can be fined $20 million? So this presentation is non-technical, so don't worry about that. It's not about IT, okay? So we're not going to be covering about IT or technical terms. So we're just going to be covering how to have better cyber hygiene. So let me ask you a question first. Who can afford to have their business shut down for a week, 2 weeks, a month, or indefinitely because you've had a cyber attack? And before you say, don't worry, my service provider's got my back and everything's backed up, the first thing I would do as a hacker is find your backups and encrypt them first. And then I'd encrypt your data so that you can't get access to your customer information, your records, your finances, or anything like that. So nobody can afford for that to happen, right? So I'm going to cover on how to have a better cyber resilience business. And this is all part of the framework that Karina talked about. This is the compliance framework that your business needs. And it doesn't matter if you're a one-person business or 100,000 people in your business. It applies to everybody. The big problem is getting people to understand what cyber is about. Well, a lot of people think cyber is about IT. Well, yes, it is. But there are 9 domains of cyber, and only one domain is about IT. So what are the other 8? So getting organizations to understand, senior management understanding cyber. Also, that cyber is understood across your organization. Who should be involved? What's it going to cost to make my business resilient? How long is it going to take me? And how do I become compliant so I am not fined $20 million? And it can be seen as a big problem. So when I started off, I went online to have a look, see what's available. I attended some courses, listened to the so-called experts, I read some books and magazines. And what I realized was I needed some organization to give me quality cyber training. People who actually knew what they were doing. Not teach me about IT, I knew all about that anyway, but about cyber. And I found an organization called the Software Engineering Institute in the United States. And I'm now partnered with that institute. I realized I needed to upskill myself. Before I can go to my customers, I need to understand myself what I needed to do. I got to attend courses so I could better understand the requirements of my customers. So I identified the courses that I needed to attend. I spent years upskilling. I realized that there's no quick fix. Just because you've done a course doesn't mean you suddenly become a cyber expert. And then if someone does say they're a cyber expert, question them in what field, because there are so many. So what happened? Well, next I became part of our 5 military countries cyber committee. I ended up being the executive chair of Five Eyes country committee. I then formed another committee, intelligence committee in cyber, and realized we had a lot to do. Most of the training some 15 years ago was only available, quality training was only available in the United States. As I said, I've become an SEI authorized instructor. This would save me money. I then emigrated to New Zealand, and this is where I'm presenting from today. And I repeated that defensive system that I put in the UK across here. I realized that I could help companies in the APAC region with the same training. I could set up a company that could reduce the skills shortage, because there is one. And also realized that in Adelaide, in Australia, that there were flying instructors in from the United States to do professional cyber training. I realized that I could provide the cyber training myself. Now I'm an SEI instructor. So my success was I got major contracts with government agencies around the world and companies. I was offering something different, something unique. And like all the course authors on The Answer is Yes, we are all trained, we are all qualified, and we all have operational experience, at least 5 years in our field of expertise. I ended up presenting to an international conference of 3,000 people in Hawaii, and I was asked to help their capability. I realized at that point that not only did I have cyber skills, but actually I liked presenting and teaching. So here's what some of the results were. We now have, through the answer is yes, professional SEI cyber training in the APAC region. The only instructor in the Southern Hemisphere is from my company, so the answer is yes. If you wanted professional cyber training elsewhere, you would have to fly to the States. I ended up writing a postgraduate diploma in cybersecurity for Fiji University. And as Toby is based in Fiji, I assume, Toby, then I'm one of the lecturers at the Fiji University. And also I set up the first Fijian cyber company, who I'm now partnered with in Fiji. I help government agencies, as I've said, and securing contracts. So let me tell you a story. There was a large organization in a country which had a major cyber incident. They had a large IT team. I was called into their office and I was met by 15 IT people. I instantly knew they didn't know what they were doing. If they'd had professional training up front, they wouldn't be sat in a position and asking themselves, how do we get our network back up and running? So the big problem I hear is it's very expensive. It costs millions of dollars to implement solutions. But the mistake is that your vendors or your customers' vendors are only offering technical solutions. Remember, I said there are 9 domains and only one's about information technology. The most important asset in an organization is your people. So you've got to empower your people and train your people. There was a research done in Australia that came out last year and said the best return on investment is training your staff. And that's why Karina's put together all these core authors offering real top quality training across all different skill sets. So what you'll achieve is happy and skilled staff who want to stay. If you're empowering them to actually help and also train them and have some sort of training regime, then it means you're investing in them and they'll stay. And also it shows that your business is recognized as a professional company and having good ethics. And that also you're being proactive and looking at how to stay resilient in times of stress. And that could be a cyber event. It could be a pandemic. How many people had to work from home, right? And the issues that came around working from home. You're working from home. You're accessing your network or your data remotely from home. You're using your router at home, which your children or your partner is using as well, and you're sharing that information. So the first thing I will want to do is compromise your router at home. Then I got access to your company data. So what I'm going to talk about is how to help you reach your destination and stay resilient and have some sort of roadmap and reduce your costs for you or your customers. Quite often I hear, I don't have the time, or we're restructuring right now, can you come back? It is much more cost effective to sort out the problem now than have an actual incident which costs you millions of dollars. So we need to identify who we can upskill and also who we can upskill with. So I spent 15 years of research looking into how we can do this. I ended up founding 2 companies and then eventually, as I've said, training government agencies. So I'm going to talk about the 3 steps to cyber resiliency. So the first thing is identifying your training requirements, whether it be for yourself, a 1-hour cyber awareness training course, or whether it be up to 5 days. And the first course that I recommend is online with, the answer is yes, is assessing cybersecurity risk for decision makers and leaders. And that's a risk management course. That's identifying what risks are there, not just for the IT risks, but all the other 8 domains. So that's going to solidify the way forward. So do online training, and then from that training, you can then identify other training options. Step 2, doing a cyber resiliency review. So what does that mean? Well, that's going to identify how mature your business is in cyber. Can anyone today tell me what your score is in cyber resiliency? And I would guarantee that most of you would say no. If you don't know how mature you are to a cyber event, how do you know you're going to survive when a cyber event actually is going to happen? So let's be proactive and do a review and get your score and identify the areas you need to improve in. Then we're going to create a roadmap. You can do that by conducting a risk assessment, identifying what your critical assets are. And I should imagine for most of you, that's your customer information maybe. So your path should look like this. Identify who needs to attend cyber risk training from your organization, whether it be yourself because you're self-employed. What risk training do you need? Because if you can't operate your business because you're being compromised, then how are you going to operate? So complete a cyber risk course. Identify what other training needs to take place for either yourself, your organization, or your customer's organization. Conduct a cyber resiliency review. Analyze what levels you want to be in terms of maturity. And then conduct a risk assessment. And then write the roadmap. So what you need to do, or what the results, should I say, you get out of that is you're empowering yourself or your staff to have a defensive system. You are being proactive. It's far cheaper to be proactive against an attack. Investing in your staff is key, as I've said. Having some sort of resiliency maturity model. Knowing where you want to be this year, next year, the following year. And reduction of uncertainty when a cyber attack actually is going to happen. So what you will have done is built a cyber defense system. It's a proactive approach to keeping your organization or your customers' organizations operating in times of stress. If all you did today was know what your vulnerabilities are or what your customers' vulnerabilities are, have the ability to identify those cyber threats, being prepared for a cyber attack, know what your critical information is to protect and how to protect it. And if you don't know what that is, then how do you know how to protect it? And making sure your business is resilient and compliant so you don't get that fine. If someone is visiting your website from outside of your country, do you know what data your website is collecting? If you don't, then you need to check. And you can come and see me through the answer is yes for a quick check. Because if you are collecting data which you are not allowed to collect, or if that data is breached, you can be fined $20 million. So what you need to do is get training through the answer is yes. I have a number of courses on the answer is yes, basically from a 1-hour course to a multiple days course, from a non-technical to technical. So I know it says 69 trainings on there. I know there are more than that now, 73 plus, I think Karina said earlier on. The place you need to go for the answer is yes. If you want to find more about cybersecurity beyond the IT realm, then book a free strategy meeting with me through the answer is yes, so that we can identify how mature you are and resilient to a cyber attack.